My name is Bradley Secker. I'm a British photojournalist. I've been living in Istanbul for the last 5.5 years, covering the Middle East and the Balkans and Central Asia for the last 10. I've been working on LGBT issues professionally for the last 7. This long body of work I've called Kutman, which is an Arabic word for the act of hiding or concealing something, which in this case is someone's sexuality or gender identity. It attempts to portray some of the waiting and the unknown aspects of being an LGBT displaced person on those grounds, and the waiting for the next move. Nobody assigned me to do this work. It was purely done from a personal motivation back in 2010. I'd been to Syria in 2008, and then I decided to go back in 2010 with a purely professional focus on documenting the situation for gay Iraqi men that had to flee from Iraq and ended up in Damascus and other parts of Syria. There was no editorial interest at that point, unfortunately. It was very difficult to kind of get that story into the media's, realm. I self-published, tried to push it, and then decided, okay, I need to work more on it, keep pushing. And then I moved to Turkey in late 2011, which is then when I started documenting the plight of the Iranians, LGBTs in Turkey, and then more recently the Syrians and some Iraqis which were displaced actually for a second time from Iraq to Syria and then to Turkey. So usually I approach them, firstly explain from the beginning I'm a photojournalist. I'm doing a long-form, ongoing body of work about the situation for you as an LGBT displaced person, and the hopes and dreams you have in the current situation, the difficulty, what you left behind, what you hope for the future, and your status quo now. Often people don't even reply. They're just like, no photos, no, please, that's not for me. Sometimes people then come around when I send them a link to previous work. It's a very slow process, and that's why it's taken 7 years to build up this body of work, which is still very much ongoing, and I hope will continue for a very long time in different variations and forms. But people are scared of the media. It's also a problem. It has a bad reputation. More recently as well, I mean, mainstream media, as people are now grouping me as part of, even as a freelance independent journalist, has a bad rep, and people are afraid, for sure. Building trust takes a long time. It affects me in a lot. It makes me optimistic that LGBT people are strong and united and will always come together wherever they are in the world. They'll form a community, they'll find each other. It's quite incredible, and I really find that inspiring. At the same time, it's incredibly negative in terms of what they're fleeing from and the conditions in a lot of countries now, in the recent past, and also what looks like the considerable future. It's not really getting so much better. So it's a mixture of optimism, happiness, and complete anger and madness of the whole thing. I'm not a big believer that photojournalism can change the world. I don't think it's that profound. Purely and simply, I think that the work that I'm doing will hopefully just illustrate and help educate people at that point in time. This is what someone was facing, that was their story, purely to inform from an individual perspective and understand why people flee and why, how being LGBT in a country affects them and where they want to go and how they get there and the situation during that time. But together as a kind of more cohesive, larger body of work, I hope it would stand as a documentation of the situation in general in the MENA region, or at least in the Levant region and Turkey for this period that I'm covering it. I really don't think it's going to change anything politically, socially. I mean, how can photographs change something if you're looking at a group like ISIS or Al-Qaeda or crazy governments? I mean, they're not really going to have that much impact. But it's about collecting the stories. It's about not letting them be lost and trying to document them, because I don't feel like there's anybody else doing it a lot of the time. So I feel that's another motivation that drives me to just try and do it whenever I can, financially and time-wise. Yeah.